TaraChessAcademy, and today we are going to practice tactics, combinations, and attacking the king.
Hi everyone! For today we prepared interesting positions for you, so let's start. Okay, so in the position of the chessboard we play black, and you see that position of the white king doesn't look so safe. Especially white's queen side is undeveloped, so the bishop and the rook on a1 don't take a part in a game. So let's think what we can do with this, yeah? So maybe we can make some problems for the king. And as always, using a rule of the candidate moves, we can think about checks or captures first, yeah, and then we can discuss some attacking moves. So Tara, what ideas do you have? Do you see any good checks in this position?
So the checks that I see are mostly with the queen, and those checks are on G5, and F3, F2, and F1.
Yeah, but G5 probably wouldn't be our best idea. Yeah, so we just lose the queen. I think queen f3, queen f2, white also can just capture the queen. So it's better to start with a check, after which we don't lose the queen. So then let's discuss queen to f1. Yeah, good for us that the queen is defended by the rook, so the king moves here. And now, as always, we have to think about checks or captures first. Yeah, so any interesting checks that you see?
So the checks that I see are on H1, H3, or G2, but all of these checks, there was one more, but all of these checks look really unsafe for the queen, and the queen could just be captured right away.
Yeah, but you told us that you see one more check, and I think that I know what you mean. It's probably rook to f2, yeah?
Yeah.
So, of course, this move, we have to think about it, we have to calculate. Yeah, so let's see what happens after rook takes f2, queen takes f2. Of course, position looks like, okay, we're so close to the king, the queen, the bishop, so maybe we can make some problems. But to be honest, after queen g2, I don't see like what black can do. So black traded some attacking pieces. Yeah, even after some checks, white still can protect the king. So probably it looked a little bit better for white that we trade rooks. So rook to f2, of course, is a candidate move that we have to discuss, but probably it's not the best move for black. So should be something better. So Tara, what ideas do you have?
So if we already considered the checks, now let's consider the captures. So with the queen, I see a whole bunch of captures. It could capture the pawn, the rook, the bishop, but all of those would just be sacrificed because the queen could be taken back.
Yeah, so it doesn't look so good. So maybe it's time for some attacking moves. So maybe we can find some weak pieces or weak squares in white's position. So Tara, I think we need your help.
Okay, so I noticed that the pawn on h3 is weak because that pawn is all by itself. So let's consider rook to f3 and attacking that pawn again.
Okay, so I think we just want to mate in one. Yeah, rook takes h3. So first let's discuss what happens if white uses the queen. So white can play queen g4 or even capture the bishop. Yeah, queen takes h4 and the pawn is defended. But then the rook on e2 becomes undefended. So black just captures it. Yeah, and I think so it could be just mate.
Right.
So yeah, after rook f3, probably queen move doesn't help a lot. So what about rook to g2? The main idea is to block the diagonal for the queen, so now the queen doesn't attack the pawn anymore. So any good ideas, Tara? So what should we do? Maybe some sacrifices, some tactics?
Okay, let's take a look at it. And as always, let's consider the checks, captures, and threats. The checks that I see could be on h1 or capturing the rook, but both of those would again lose the queen. So maybe checks would be one thing, but the checks with the queen aren't so good. Now let's consider the rook check. The only rook check is on h3, so let's consider that move.
Yeah, especially if we see a capture with check, probably it should be number one for us, what we should start with, yeah? So if you have a choice checks or checks and capture, so it's better to start with check with capture. Okay, so rook takes h3, I don't see any moves except king takes.
And now let's look for our forcing moves. So the only check that I see for the queen that will be safe is if it goes to h1.
Okay, so the king can move to g4 or white can play rook h2. So what happens after rook h2?
After rook h2, we can capture the white queen for free.
Yeah, and if we evaluate this position, so black has a queen for the rook, an extra pawn, yeah, and especially these two pawns are passed pawns, really weak position of the king, and I think that it's not gonna take too much time to win. Okay, so let's see, who knows, maybe king g4 is better, but I'm not sure.
And as we said in the introduction, we're also going to practice our tactics today. So what is the best move for black to win the queen? Well, if you found the move knight to f6, good job. Now we can capture the white queen.
So just a nice fork. Yeah, so if the king takes knight, we can also get the rook. So of course, like even this position, yeah, if the king for some reason doesn't capture, so it's still a winning position for black. Yeah. So nice idea with rook f3. You see, it's not a check, it's not a capture, yeah, but still an attacking move. So it doesn't mean that all the tactics and combinations should be with like checks or captures. Sometimes it could be an attacking move too. Okay, so let's go to the next position. Yeah, so this time we still play black. You see that black pieces are pretty close to the white king, and it looks like the last move that white made was knight takes b6. Yeah, maybe capture a bishop on b6. So, and of course, when you play a game, if your opponent captures a piece, sometimes you can automatically capture back. Like, it's the first thing that you should think about. But don't forget about intermediate moves. Yeah, so if like it's not checkers, so if someone captures your piece, you don't have to take it to capture it immediately. So let's think what black can do, and like my intuition tells me that we have to concentrate on the position of the white king. So Tara, what do you think?
So we're going to consider the checks, captures, and threats, but also the attacking moves, because we want to find the best way to get to the white king. So let's consider those things and try to calculate those different lines. Okay, so for the checks, I can see for the queen to capture the bishop, to move to g1, or to move to h1. And some of you might be thinking about queen to h1, because if the bishop takes, then the rook could take back. But the problem with this is that the king has 2 escape squares, so it's not going to work out. So let's go back.
Yeah, I think it's better to save the queen on the chessboard.
Yeah, and sacrifices sometimes work when you're trying to attack the king, but not always. So now let's consider our other attacking moves.
So I think as you were concentrated during the previous position, you should notice that I told you that it's very nice, first of all, to calculate captures with check. Yeah. So like if you get a position like this in your game, I think your first candidate moves that you should start with would be knight takes g3 and knight takes e3. And then you can also think about queen takes g2, yeah, and only then you can think about queen h1, queen g1, and some other moves, yeah. But as Tara said before, probably like queen h1, like queen takes g2, we will not get a big advantage after this. We probably get a losing position, yeah, without the queen. So it's better if we start with knight takes e3 and knight takes g3. Probably knight takes g3 is a little bit better to start with. I'm talking about like to start your calculations with this move. Just because you can save your time, you need to calculate less because white has just one possible answer, and you will understand maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work. Because if you start with knight takes e3, you have to calculate much more like variations. Bishop takes e3, rook takes e3, pawn takes e3. So if you want to save your time, knight takes e3 is the best candidate move to start with. So let's try. No choice, just pawn move, yeah. And now let's think. As always, checks and captures, but maybe you can also find some good attacking moves in this position.
Okay. So the checks or captures or the checks with captures, all of these moves don't seem really good here. So with attacking moves, I can see to move the bishop to h3, and with this move we bring in a new attacker and we add pressure to the bishop. So now our threat would be to capture the bishop on g2 and make a checkmate to the king.
Yeah, so as you can see, we just like for now don't care about this knight on b6. So yeah, we want to mate in 1, and now we have to calculate 3 possible answers for white. It's bishop takes h3, rook e2 with idea to protect the bishop, or bishop to c3 with idea to open the second rank for the queen. So let's start maybe with bishop takes h3 first. So
Okay.
What would you do?
So as you said, checks with captures are usually a bit stronger. So let's consider to capture the bishop.
Okay, so like the king has several moves. Let's start with king e2. What happens if the king just tries to escape to d1? So probably we shouldn't let the king to escape there. So what would you do, Tara?
So part of thinking about the forced moves are analyzing all of the possible moves. And as you said, we don't want the king to escape to d1. So we should look for a check that doesn't allow the king to go to d1. And the 2 checks that I see are queen to h5 or queen to g4. And now we have to consider which move could be better. I think I prefer queen to g4 better because it doesn't block the rook from the h file and opens up the rook's open file.
I agree. So, okay, maybe the king moves to f2. Yeah, also you should notice that when you have an attack, it's usually good to use not just one piece. It's better if you use several pieces in your attack. So...
Right, so let's try moving the rook to h2. We bring in another attacker, and we attack the king.
Okay, maybe king g1, king f1. I think it's not so important for white because black has very like similar answer. Yeah, so it's just mate in 2. Yeah, and then mate at the second rank.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if the king moves maybe to f2? Let's discuss. So I think in this position, of course, we can try queen h2, but okay, if the king moves here, I don't see any, like, maybe checks. Okay, it could be queen h1, queen h3, but we still will be on h file. Yeah, after queen h1, the king's still gonna try to get to e2 and d1. So I think it's better if we free the h file for the rook and maybe start with queen f5 in this position. So white plays king to g2, and now very nice combinations that I see. It's made in several moves. So like maybe our rook on h8 would help us. So Tara, what do you think? What checks with the rook do you see?
So the checks with the rook are only rook to h2 and attacking the king.
So in this position, we should be careful. Yeah, we have just told you that it's very good when you use new pieces in your attack, but if you play rook h2 immediately, so yeah, king moves back to g2, and it looks like we repeated with the previous position, but we have minus rook on the chessboard. So of course, rook h2, the main idea is to deflect the king and to get to the second rank with the queen. Yeah, so not like to use your rook and move it to h8 with check. Yeah, only now when your queen is on the second rank, we can play rook to h8, yeah. And in this position, we have mate in 1, so you can stop the video and try to find it by yourself.
Okay, and we'll give you a few seconds to do so. Okay, so if you're back, you may have found the move queen to f5, and it makes a checkmate to the king.
Yeah, by the way, not the pawn to f5, yeah, because then the king escapes to g5, so like, and it will be mate, but the next move, so it's better to mate in 1 than in 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
So nice variation. Okay, let's go back and probably we can stop discussing bishop takes h3. Let's think what happens after rook e2. Actually, I like this move for white more, but just because black mates much faster. So, Tara, what ideas do you have?
Okay, so if I want to continue the attack, I need to think about my forcing moves like checks, captures, and threats. So with the captures, it doesn't seem really convincing, because if the queen takes the pawn or the bishop, we can't really continue from there. So now let's consider queen to h1. And I know you might be thinking, why are we doing that? Because we'll lose our queen. But then we can see that the bishop is pinning the white one, so the bishop can't take the queen.
So the king has to escape, and we have a very nice mate, yeah? So by the way, queen g1, queen f1, no matter how you play it, it's still mate. So yeah, that's why I like rook e2 more. So the shortest variation. Yeah, but also white can use the queen, yeah, to open the second rank for the queen and to play bishop c3. So I think we still can try this plan, yeah, to get to g2 with check, king moves here. Of course, we don't trade queens, yeah, if we want to have our attack, so it's better to save the queens on the chessboard. But I still want to use my rook using h file, and for this I think I have to move the bishop away, and I have to open the file for the rook. So very nice check. Rook goes to e2, yeah, you shouldn't be afraid. So yes, like the queen is attacked, but the rook is pinned, so it's not possible to capture. Yeah, so Tara, what would you do in this position? How would you continue?
Okay, so I would move my rook to h1 and bring in another attacker.
So unfortunately it's not mate, yeah, because of bishop e1. And to be honest, in this position, I think that black has so many strong moves. So it could be like queen f1 with the idea to attack the bishop and the rook more. I think like maybe even if we capture the rook immediately, we still get an advantage. But I prefer this like white move more, because finally white gets in zugzwang, so situation when you just don't have any good moves. Yeah, so black can just wait like what white will do. So the rook is pinned, the bishop is pinned, white even can't play king d2 with the idea to escape, yeah, because then queen takes e2 is like a very good move. So maybe white can play queen to d2, yeah, with the idea to have an escape square for the king, or maybe to play rook c2 with the idea to protect this rook more. Yeah, and if you remember the rule about pinning pieces, so we should try to attack them more. So in this position, we can try to attack this rook more. We have two attacking pieces and two defenders. So rook h2 looks nice. And after rook c2, I think we have also a nice idea. It could be queen f1, for instance. So what is the plan? I just want to open the second rank for the rook, And okay, I don't see any good moves for white, so it could be like b4, for instance, yeah. And now my plan, I just want, if white captures, yeah, I'm not gonna trade my queen to the queen. I can capture with the bishop. Yeah, so like finally position could be like this. So black has queen for the bishop and white can just resign. So could be something like this. But as I said before, let's discuss maybe this move too. So even if we just trade pieces, yeah, who knows, maybe you can get position like this and have like 30 seconds on your clocks, yeah, and you don't have time to calculate a lot. Even if you trade pieces and get position like this, yeah, so it also look very, very nice, yeah. Or let me think, maybe we can even try this check first, yeah. So like bishop d2 doesn't look so good, yeah, because rook takes, the bishop is pinned, so the king moves away somewhere, maybe back, maybe to f3. We can capture, yeah, so of course an absolutely winning end game for black, so white can just resign.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video to others. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!
Bye!